All praises to the Most High. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. And I'm going to do a lesson called Watch Your Mouth. And I'm going to start with Leviticus chapter 19, verse 16 through 17. And it reads, Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. So the Lord is letting us know that we shouldn't be going and backbiting, going and being a talebearer, going murmuring. We're not supposed to do any of those things. Verse 17, it reads, And thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. So if you love your brothers, like Christ said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And if you do those things, keep loving your brother is part of it. So you shouldn't go and slander your brother or your sister. Because when you're doing that, you're actually murdering your brother and your sister by slandering them. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 11, verse 7 through 8. And it reads, Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first, and then rebuke. So we're not supposed to have evil suspicions. We're not supposed to just blame someone. We need to examine the matter, and then we can go and rebuke. If it's you brought 2 or 3 witnesses, you're supposed to examine that matter thoroughly and then do it. Verse 8, Answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk. So that goes with what James said. We have to be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to get angry. So if you're listening, you can always hear what the person is saying before you can jump to a conclusion. And you shouldn't have evil thoughts. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Jeremiah. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 9. And I'm going to read verse 4 through 9. Jeremiah 9, verses 4 through 9, and it says, Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother, for every brother, for every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slanders. So we got to always try and prove our friends. We need to always do that. Once you meet them, you try the spirit, and you have to let them grow, and before you can actually say, okay, they're this or they're that, you need to examine them and prove them. Verse 5, And they will deceive every one his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. This is talking about how some people will do. Some people will do this. Verse 6, Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord. So the Lord is saying, people that like to slander and tell lies, that's not of him, because Yahweh Shai doesn't like liars. He made that clear in Revelations in the last book that all liars, murderers, whoremongers are not going to make it into the kingdom. Verse 7, Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will melt them and try them. For how shall I do for the daughter of my people? Verse 8, Their tongue is an arrow shot out, it speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in heart he layeth his weight. So in other words, he'll say the words, and he'll use the lip service, and he'll speak smoothly, but in his mind he's thinking and plotting against you, how he can take you down, or how he can do something to hurt you. Verse 9, Shall I not visit them for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? So he's saying he's going to take vengeance on the people that do these things. And remember in Hebrews, he said, Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and I'll repay. So we always have to know that we don't need to take matters into our own hands. We need to know that the battle is not ours, like he said in Chronicles. It's the Lord's. So we need to let the Lord fight our battles. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of 1 Timothy, Book of 1 Timothy. This is my big study Bible, so bear with me. 1 Timothy chapter 5, and I'm going to read verse 19 through 20. And that reads, "Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses," like I was bringing out earlier. You have to come with 2 or 3 witnesses before you can even rebuke an elder. Verse 20, "Them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear." So he said that when you do it, just do it, and you can rebuke in front of everyone. So then that should give them that fear, because they don't want to get that humiliation. That should teach them. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19. Deuteronomy chapter 19. I've asked it. Deuteronomy chapter 19, and I'm going to read verse 15. And that reads, "One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin. And any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established." So this is what Yahushua was saying. Remember, all the prophets Yahushua was speaking through all of them. That was him in the spirit speaking through all of them. And so we have to come with 2 or 3 witnesses. We can't just have evil suspicions or thoughts. We have to have proof and prove all things. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew chapter 18. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15 through 17. And I just got out of the book of Matthew. Shalakia. Matthew chapter 18. And this is, bear with me because this is my big study Bible. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15 through 17. And it reads, "Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother." Verse 16, "But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established." So this is actually Yahushua speaking here and saying the same thing that Moses was saying. It's the same thing. 2 or 3 witnesses. In verse 17, "And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican." So he just said, leave him alone. Not, you don't hate him, you just leave him alone and let the Lord deal with him after that. That's what he's saying there. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of John. John chapter 5. And I'm going to read Shalakia, John chapter 7. And I'm going to read verse 51. And that reads, John 7 verse 51. And it reads, "Doth our law," Shalakia, "doth our law judge any man before it hear him and know what he doeth?" So he's letting us know we have to make sure we have proof, and we have to have the 2 or 3 witnesses. The same thing. We can't just assume. We can't just have the thoughts. We have to actually have proof of it. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, and verse 13. Proverbs 18, verse 13. And that reads, "He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him." So now he's saying that goes with what James said. We have to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. So before we can actually answer, we need to actually hear the matter. And then once we hear it, we have to ponder on it, think about it, and then answer accordingly. And from there, I'm going to go stay in the book of Proverbs, and I'm going to jump over to chapter 26, and I'm going to read verse 20. And that reads, where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. So in other words, when we are just running our mouth, using that tongue can start a forest fire. That starts a fire. So the Lord is telling us we have to be careful with our tongue, because that tongue can start problems, and it really hurts the body, and it can start a lot of problems within the body. And from there, I'm going to stay in the book of Proverbs and go over to chapter 20. Proverbs chapter 20, and I'm going to read verse 19, and that reads, Shalaki, I'm in the wrong chapter. Verse 19, and that reads, he that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets. Therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. So the Lord is saying, don't meddle with someone that's always murmuring, that's always just talking about their brothers, talking about their sisters. He's saying, don't meddle with them. This is what the Lord is saying. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Sirach, chapter 21. Salakia, and also known as Ecclesiasticus, and that's chapter 21 and verse 25, and that reads, the lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them, but the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance. So the Lord, he's about just weights and balances. But someone that's always murmuring and talking about someone behind their back, they're talking about things that pertain to them. But it's not always the truth. They're just saying things. And from there, I'm going to stay in the book of Sirach. And I'm going to go to chapter 7. Sirach chapter 7, verse 12 to 13. And that reads, devise not a lie against thy brother, neither do the like to thy friend. So he's letting us know, don't go around murmuring and telling lies about your brother, and don't do it to your friend. 13, use not to make any manner of lie, for the custom thereof is not good. So the Lord, he hates liars. I brought that out earlier, how he mentioned that in Revelations. He actually hates liars. So we got to be careful with our tongue. Always make sure we're proving all things, and we're getting 2 or 3 witnesses. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of James. The book of James, and I'm going to read from chapter 1. James chapter 1. Verse 19 through 25, and it reads, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. So he's letting us know we have to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of Yahweh. It doesn't do any good when you're upset. Verse 21, wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness. So he's letting it be known we have to lay aside these things and receive with meekness, with humility, the engrafted word which is able to save our souls. So when someone's hearing the word, they have to be able to receive it. So like when I'm bringing the word out, I'm actually ministering to myself. I have to take this word to heart myself, not just issue it out. I have to be a doer of what it says too. In verse 22, he says, but be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. So anybody that's just hearing it but not doing it, they're deceiving their own self, he's saying. Verse 23, and it says, for if any man be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. Verse 24, he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. So we can't forget. We got to always remember that we're children of the Most High, and we have to act accordingly. Verse 25, but whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man or woman shall be blessed in his deeds. So this is how we're going to always be blessed. We're going to be bearing fruit if we continue to do the things that he said. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon, and I'm going to go to chapter 5 and read 1 through 7. And it reads, keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Yahweh, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. So the Lord is saying, when this word is going forth, people need to just be quiet. He's really saying, just shut your mouth and be quiet and listen. Verse 2, be not rash with thy mouth, and let Salakia, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before Yahweh. So he's saying you need to not let your mouth, don't let it run. For God, Yahweh, is in heaven, and thou upon the earth. Therefore let thy words be few. So he's saying you got to just be quiet when that word is going forth. Verse 3, for a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by multitude of words. So he's saying someone that's just constantly running their mouth, he's actually saying they're a fool. Verse 4, when thou vowest a vow unto Yahweh, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. In other words, we made this agreement. We're supposed to keep the promise and the agreement we made, that covenant. That's why in Amos he said, can two walk together unless they're in agreed? We have to be in agreement. We have to do the things he said. Verse 5, better is it that thou shouldest not vow, Salakia, than thou shouldest vow and not pay. You should, in other words, you say you're going to do what he said. You've made that covenant, but then you don't want to do it. Verse 6, suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should Yahweh God be angry at thy voice, and destroy the work of thine hands? Because this goes with what he said in Luke, and Matthew, how every idle word that man shall speak, or woman, they're going to give account on the day of judgment. So that's what that precept goes with. And verse 7, it says, for in the multitude of dreams and in many words there are also diverse vanities. But fear thou Yahweh. He's saying, so that's why if any man speak, he told us in Peter, let him speak the oracles of Yahweh. Any man minister, let him minister with the ability that Yahweh gives him. So that's what we're supposed to do, not speak our own words. We're supposed to speak his words. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 19 through 24. And that reads, again, I say unto you that if two of you shall agree on earth, Shalakia, verily I say unto you, whatsoever you shall, Shalakia, I'm in the wrong verse. Verse 19, again I say unto you that if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them. of my Father which is in heaven. Verse 20, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So that's 2 or 3 coming together in his name, the 2 or 3 witnesses. And verse 21, then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me? And I forgave him, till 7 times 7. Yahushua saith unto him, I say not unto thee, until 7 times, but unto 70 times 7. So, in other words, Yahushua is saying we got to continue to forgive unconditionally. We can't stop forgiving our brothers or sisters. That's what he's saying there. We can't stop. We have to always do it. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19 through 24. And it reads, this Bible pages are sticking. Luke chapter 10, verse 19. Through 24. And it reads, behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So he's letting it be known that he's going to be our shield and buckler, our fortress and our refuge. He's going to be that very present help in a time of trouble, if we're being obedient to what he says. 20, notwithstanding in this, rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Verse 21, in that hour Yahushua rejoiced in the Spirit, and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for it seemed good in thy sight. So he doesn't reveal this to everyone, but he reveals it to whom he chooses. In verse 22, it reads, all things are delivered to me of my Father, and no man knoweth who the Son is but the Father, and who the Father is but the Son, and he to whom the Son will reveal him. So it's who the Father has to be, you have to be drawn by the Father. That's what Yahushua is saying. Verse 23, and he turned him unto his disciples and said privately, Blessed are the eyes which see the things that you see. Verse 24, for I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. So he said, blessed is your eyes if you can see it. If he's given you that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, he's saying you're blessed. You're blessed to be able to see those things. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23. Jeremiah 23. Jeremiah 23 and verse 29. This is a big book. Jeremiah is it's a really good book. It's all good. All the word of God is good. Jeremiah 23, verse 29, and it reads, is not my word like as a fire, Salakia, saith the Lord, and like a hammer? Let me read that again. Verse 29, is not my word like as a fire, saith the Lord, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces? So this, he's saying how this word is just sharp and powerful. And from there, I'm going to go to Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 14. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 14. And that reads, Wherefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, because you speak this word, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. And this is why it eats and it burns at their spirit. It tears them up inside. That's why a lot of times they don't want to hear it. They say, I don't want to hear it, or they run. And that's because it's cutting at their spirit, or they're in some kind of sin or mud in the mire at the time. Because it says the wicked flee when no man pursue it, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. And from there I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 4. Back to Matthew chapter 4, 17 through 20. And it reads, From that time Yahushua began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Verse 18, And Yahushua walking by the sea of Galilee saw two brethren, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. They were fishermen. Verse 19, And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be fishers of men for Yahweh and Yahushai. Verse 20, And they straightway left their nets and followed him. And so that's a powerful precept. He said, just follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. He wants us to go gather his lost sheep and gather them and bring them so that we can build his house and get ready for the kingdom. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 4. And I'm going to read verse 12 through 13. And I'm going to close with this one. Hebrews 4, just verse 12 through 13. And it reads, For the word of Yahweh is quick and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. So he gets down into that to your mind, because the heart is the mind. He knows what our thoughts is. He knows what we're thinking. And verse 13, Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight. So he sees all and knows all because he's omnipotent. It says, But all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do, and whom we have to give an account. So with that, I'm going to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, B'Shem, HaMashiach, Yahweh Shai, Shalom.